Welcome back. We have with us now a very familiar face in familiar surroundings. He is Rich Borowy, and I'd like to welcome Rich right now. Rich, can you hear me up there?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. You're coming in just as the light of day.
How's the weather? You have a window out there. We don't have any windows here in the studio.
Well, I'll tell you, the weather out here is great. I mean, the window we have here, has a fantastic view of the parking lot here, and sometimes we even play like Count the Chevys or something like that there. So we have a great view. I'll tell you that.
Does it look hot out there?
Well, I'll tell you. As far as it looking hot is one thing, but feeling it, that's another story there.
Okay, you have two shows here on cable. One is Accessibly Live. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
And that is a live show.
That's right.
For an hour every week. And where do you find the stamina for that?
Well, I'll tell you, as far as the stamina for doing a live program, unlike a tape program where you do little bits and pieces, not necessarily all in one stretch, and of course, if you make a mistake, then what you can do is just kind of start all over again from scratch. But unlike a live program, especially mine, where we're on for an hour straight, and you've really got to keep on going regardless of how many mistakes or errors you do. In fact, that's another thing about making these so-called blunders. If you do make a blunder, you can't go back and do it all over again because everybody out there saw what you did. But as far as the stamina to do a program like that, it doesn't really take that much effort. It's just basically, you just got to have the drive and the motivation to do it. And if you just put your mind to it, it could really be done just as easy, in fact, easier than one may think.
These days, most things are taped. I'd say about 98% of things are taped. And your show kind of harks back to the 50s, where most of it was live.
That's right. Most of your live stuff on television, either broadcast or cable today, is basically news and sports. And in fact, even a good number of those types of programs are taped. They may not be taped for airplay maybe like weeks later or something. They could even be taped like the hour before. But unlike broadcast and whatnot, this program is done live. And back, of course, back in the early days of television, a lot of your material was live, basically because outside of filming the program, there was really no medium to record a lot of this stuff.
And excuse me, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say that a lot of this stuff was aired live. Also, the reason being that it also brought a lot of spontaneous action in the program where viewers used to tune into a live program every week, not so much, not only to absorb of what's going on, but also to see what may happen. Because unlike a tape or a film program where everyone will know what's going to happen since it was done before, a live program, nobody has any idea what's going to happen. Maybe something will happen or maybe nothing will happen. But then again, no one will know until, of course, after the fact. So that's why a lot of programs, especially your live programs, had very high ratings and a lot of loyal viewers, just basically just to see the spontaneous action go on.
Sure. I think we should mention to the people watching this right now that we are not live.
No, no, we're doing this on tape. We're kind of crammed on these little cassettes like this. And believe you me, it's no fun being on these tapes here. So thank goodness for live programming.
So
I'll tell you that.
Don't call in. This is not Accessibly Live.
Yes,
right
don't call us 572-0618 because we are not on here. We are on tape, not live, not on film, but on videotape. That's
right. actually passed away about 2 weeks ago.
Yes, that's right. You're kind of seeing forgotten images live before your screen. Well, actually, taped before your screen.
Rich, what other shows have you done?
Well, the other programs that I have done, we were speaking about the early days of television a moment ago, which, by the way, is a major interest of mine. But I have done a series of programs called Yesterday's Airwaves, and that is a series that features early television programs going back to the very early days of television, and we're talking about as early as the late 1940s. Many of these programs were done live, and of course they were basically preserved, not so much for future generations to watch, which in those days they didn't know how long this was going to last, but basically a lot of this stuff was was saved basically for TV stations that were not connected to the network, either by coax cable or some other medium. So they would run it maybe like a week or two later, even though that the program will not be as fresh as it once was. People will still get a chance to see it.
And I believe that process is called Kinoscope?
A kinoscope,
Yeah.
yes. And that process, which was just consisted of taking a 16 millimeter film camera and pointing it to a TV screen and just literally filming what was going on the screen. It's a very crude process, but then again, that was the only way to do it. Videotape wouldn't have come until years later, and it wasn't really until the last maybe 15 or so years where tape was really recognized as a absolute medium to use.
Well, what's your source for getting those tapes on yesterday's airwaves?
Well, it's kind of interesting as far as finding a lot of this material. There are other collectors like me that are really interested in early television, and I get a lot of these material from these people, and of course these people get their material from other people, and so on and so forth. And also a lot of the stuff that I do find, I usually just literally stumble upon it, where I'm not necessarily looking for this material, either specific material or any other source, but it just literally just comes to me. In fact, I even had some material that I picked up in all places in a garage sale. So that gives you the idea as far as where you would find this material. It's basically, you just don't know what to expect, how much to expect, or even when to expect it. But that's where a lot of the material comes. It just comes from some places that you would not expect to see it.
How did you get started in this? What was it, a hobby or something? That,
Well, I'll tell you, I was interested in television ever since I can remember, but I was never really involved into TV, especially in the early days where, of course, I couldn't walk into a broadcast station and say, hey, let me play with your equipment, of course. You know, first thing they do is laugh in my face and they tell me to get out of there. But I got interested in, or started in production when I took a course in TV production at the high school that I was attending at the time, which we've had a pretty small set here where we had a small switcher, which is a little device that is in front of me here that kind of controls a lot of the special effects and whatnot. We had some studio cameras and so on and so forth. And outside of doing student productions, there really wasn't anything that I did from there. Well, I took a leave of absence from TV production for about a year or two until the local cable company that was in my area had a specific channel on their system that was called Public Access, which literally people from the neighborhood or anyone else that was interested can actually learn how to operate this equipment and do their own programs.
Right, anybody can do it.
That's right. I mean, we are not really professionals, quote unquote professionals per se, but then again, you don't necessarily have to be a professional to do this. Only thing you need is just the drive, the motivation to do it, and of course, to have a little creativity and a little imagination to do your own programs.
Right.
That's all you need. You don't necessarily need any talent. It helps, but it's not necessary.
Okay, what are your future plans? Do you plan to use this experience as a springboard into a broadcasting career?
Well, I would like to actually take this program and any other programs that I've done into a so-called broadcasting medium where maybe I can get a larger audience as far as viewers are concerned, and also maybe using some special effects or anything else that unfortunately I don't have access to. But then again, that's not really important. What really is important as far as having a good quality production, special effects may enhance it, but it doesn't necessarily improve it. But I would like to take like Accessibly Live and do it maybe on a larger scale where it would get more viewers and whatnot, and possibly take it from there.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the highlights of Accessibly Live is that you have trivia questions, and I'd like to ask you why your trivia questions are so tough.
Well, I'll tell you. Now, of course, a lot of your electronic mediums, if you will, do have these contests where they ask trivia questions for prizes and whatnot. And I will admit, a lot of these questions that these other sources ask are relatively easy, almost to a point where they're laughable as far as its easiness is concerned. Well, on this program where we give away a lot of these real neato prizes and all that sort of stuff, we kind of have a philosophy here where that if you really want the prize that we give away, you have to earn it. And this way, it would give some people also not only as far as to entertain them, but also to even educate them, where maybe we would ask a question that maybe they could use or so, maybe a couple of years down the road. I mean, after all, a lot of people out there maybe want to know, or even may have the chance to be asked as far as how many World Series games was played over at Busch Stadium. So we kind of educate and also entertain as well.
Yeah, I missed that question, too.
Oh, you did? Well, there was 14 games, by the way, played at Busch as far as World Series games from 1967 to last year. So.
And that doesn't include the Gas House game?
No, they played those games over in Sportsman's Park, which unfortunately that park had a unexpected date with a wrecker ball. So, but then again, that's another story there.
Okay. So they're not easy questions like who played Rhett Butler or something like that?
Yes, exactly. Right.
Well, I want to thank you, Rich, for stopping by, and I wish you lots of success on Accessibly Live and yesterday's Airwaves, and keep up the good work.
Well, thanks for dropping by, and we'll have to do this again.
Okay, bye-bye for now.
All righty.